Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host over here at this channel. A big thank you to my patrons for your support, and for today's video we're going to be predicting England's 2023 Rugby World Cup. I was one of the people that was not very impressed when Eddie Jones got sacked, but Steve Borthwick has probably been taking the most sensible possible approach he can to picking his World Cup squad. A long time out, he said 7th August UK time, that is when we are going to be naming the squad, and he's taken a bit of a thinning approach, I guess, with his World Cup training squad before he finalises it down to a number of 33. Every nation has to pick 33 players for their squads, and so what I'm going to predict for England is going to be that Borthwick's going to go for a fair bit of experience, with the rest of the guys who aren't too experienced getting a bit of a Leicester Tigers feel to it, as Borthwick used to coach the Leicester Tigers in the English Premiership. To start off over at hooker, Jamie George is very obviously going to be picked, with Luke Cowan-Dickie unavailable and George McGuigan seemingly out of favour. George is a veteran with 80 tests, including appearances for the British and Irish Lions, and at 32 years old, without Cowan-Dickie and McGuigan, he is going to be absolutely crucial. He's played the most minutes in the number 2 jersey for England since 2020, and so he's going to be absolutely massive at this tournament. Backing him up, well, I think we all know how that's going to look. Jamie Blamire is going to back him up for sure. Jamie Blamire is a form player, hasn't quite earned the decent amount of test caps at 25 years old, but he's got 6 under his belt, and when he has played tests, he has shown absolute pure class in my opinion, and since he's probably the next most experienced guy that's on the roster, he's probably going to be the number 16. As for the other guys, Jack Walker hasn't played too much, but Theo Dan, who's the 4th, is uncapped, and so I do think Walker is going to come back from injury and add to his 3 test caps. At 27, it's just a little bit more sensible considering Dan is so young, born in the 2000s, whereas Walker is decent enough in the set piece. Steve Borthwick is very set piece minded, and so I think Walker is going to fit into the picture. Over to the props, we'll start with the loose heads, and Ellis Genge has been named as one of the vice captains, and so he is guaranteed for selection. He's one of the 3 players that have basically already put their names onto the team sheet. Genge, it's so hard to believe he's not a British and Irish Lion yet, because this Bristol Bears man is an absolute machine both with and off the ball. He used to play for Leicester Tigers and was captain back then as well, so Borthwick will know him reasonably well. He played his first game for England as the captain under Borthwick, and so a selection it's guaranteed. As for the other guys, experience does seem to be the way that Borthwick is going, and so I do think Marco Vunipola is going to be another guy that's coming back from injury. While Val Rapava-Ruskin is a guy that's in form right now, Marco Vunipola has played 88 tests, including 9 for the British and Irish Lions. The guy's machine as well, 126 kgs, nearly said 162 kgs there, goodness me. He has been world class for Saracens for a long time. While he's no longer at the peak of his powers, at least he's been proven at test level, whereas Rapava-Ruskin just hasn't been able to show himself, and this close to the World Cup, I don't know if it's going to happen, which means Joe Marler might indeed get a shot. Though he hasn't played a test for the British and Irish Lions before, he's gone on multiple tours, and at 33 years old, he's a bit similar to Vunipola. If Vunipola isn't perhaps giving his all at the scrum, maybe Marler is going to be preferred in jersey 17 over Vunipola. Over to the tight heads, Kyle Sinclair, another one who's been on multiple Lions tours with 67 tests. A lot of the Lions caps are coming in the tight 5 forwards, so Borthwick is definitely going to be very pleased with that. He's 30 years old, played the most minutes in the 2020s, pretty much guarantee. Dan Cole took a lot longer to reach 100 tests than I thought, but he has finally got there thanks to his 100th test cap against Ireland in the Six Nations this year. But similar to Marler, he doesn't have the all-round game around the pitch. He's solid enough at the scrum though, so is a sensible pick after all. And Will Stewart, the 3rd choice, he is a guy that's really proven himself in the last year or so against Australia and the All Blacks in 2022. He was an absolute beast, got 2 tries to get that last minute draw against my All Blacks, and 132 kgs, he's very hard to move at the scrum. Over to the locks, Maro Itoje is the leader of the pack in spirit, whereas Ellis Genge obviously just plays really hard and physically doesn't have to say much. Itoje with 73 tests under his belt has also played 6 tests for the Lions. I'm saying that sentence far too much, so England definitely have the tools that Borthwick wants to make it a set-piece dominated team. Whether he does achieve that, it's up for us to find out, but Itoje, you can't go wrong with him. Itoje's earned multiple nominations for World Player of the Year, and so we move over to Courtney Lawes, who is another one of the vice-captains who's already put his name on the team sheet. Courtney Lawes with 102 tests, including 5 for the British and Irish Lions. He is one of the greats, man, and he's not retiring after the World Cup at 34 years old. Just shows the absolute effort he puts into his recovery, and with the ability to play blindside flanker, perhaps Ollie Chessum, one of the young up-and-coming guys, could end up getting a start. Chessum at 6'7" would definitely balance the line out a little bit more, as Itoje is just 1.95 meters tall, and he's a big unit at 118 kgs. I've started to really grow to like Chessum as a player, so hopefully he is going to go there. The Leicester Tigers thing, it should do him a favour for sure. Dave Ribbons, he's just signed for Toulon in France, but as far as I'm aware, he remains available as he's in the World Cup training squad. Johnny Hill, who's been a British and Irish Lion before, for whatever reason, Borthwick just doesn't seem to rate him. I don't know if it's a discipline thing, I don't know if it's a personality thing, but Dave Ribbons has added to his 5 test caps under Borthwick, and so at 6'8", 2.02 meters, I think he is possibly going to edge his way in, though he's signed to play over in France. He's played over 100 games for Northampton though, so I think his loyalty is still showing in terms of his caps for them. George Martin, another player who I think is going to be a like-for-like replacement of Courtney Lawes. Martin has just played 1 test, but he's able to cover both lock and 6, and so with a few injuries over on the loose forwards, George Martin I think can sneak his way in. At 22 years old, he's starting to get to be a decent age, so you don't have to worry too much, and as there's not enough, I guess, out and out talent in England's loose forwards right now, I think just taking Martin in to cover both is going to be the way to go. The first choice 6 who appears to be the guy in Borthwick's eyes right now is Lewis Ludlam, who was a bit of a last minute call up in 2019 when Brad Shields got injured, and he has been involved in test rugby for a lot longer than I thought he was going to be. He's definitely starting to look a bit stockier, but I don't know how he's going to go at the breakdown. He does need to work on that. Borthwick has the faith though, he seems to think of Ludlam as one of the leaders, so perhaps Ludlam could end up being the second choice number 8 with Billy Vunipola injured again. If Martin does go to 6, Ludlam could go to 8 potentially, I don't know. Anyway, Tom Pearson I think is going to be able to get his way in. Tom Willis, I don't know if he's as special as his brother Jack, who we'll talk about later, so I do think there may potentially be room for Tom Pearson. Everyone's been saying in the comments over and over, get this guy in at 1.91 meters, 114 kgs. If Borthwick wants to play the game the way he played it in the 2023 Six Nations, I think Pearson is going to fit the bill for Borthwick's tactics. Anyway, Jack Willis, legendary. I really hope England just continue to bend the rules, as he's been playing in Toulouse in France since the Wasps sadly went under, but Jack Willis an absolute machine. I do not have to say much more. I have full guarantees that he will be starting at 7 under Borthwick if Tom Curry isn't quite firing. I do think Tom Curry though could potentially be the first choice number 8. Curry is yet to play a test under Borthwick as his brother Ben was covering him during his absence. Ben Curry is injured, but Tom's coming back. He's just 25 years old with 49 test caps. He could potentially be one of the few players that can have the possibility of chasing down Alan Wynne-Jones's all-time record for most tests ever. And Tom Curry, man, with Alex Dombrant being the next guy on the roster, I think there is a chance. Curry's played tests at number 8 before, and Dombrant is possibly a little bit too big to be a test level number 8 at 1.91 meters and 118 kgs. Dombrant has looked very good in the past, but he's kind of not really quite cutting it right now, and so of course that's why I've labelled Curry as a number 8. We'll just take a quick ad break, then we'll get into the backs, everybody. The halfbacks for England's squad, they basically pick themselves. Borthwick has just 3 9s in his training squad right now, and so Jack van Poortvliet continuing to be the first choice, it seems to be a little bit of a guarantee. Aside from his test matches against Australia in 2022, he hasn't quite brought his promise into action at test level, but at 22 years old, you'd did start to think he'd start firing soon. With Danny Kerr and Ben Youngs in the mix as well, that'll be very good. I can see Youngs getting jersey 21 as he's a Leicester Tigers player who is familiar with Borthwick's system. He's also England's most capped ever player. And well, with Alex Mitchell no longer in the squad, which is a real shame to me, maybe picking Danny Kerr for the experience was the only real option that Borthwick has, as he can't just pick, you know, a third Leicester Tigers halfback. Kerr isn't one of my favourite players, as you guys watching this video will know, but at 87 tests, he does fit Borthwick's criteria, as I've said a few times before in this video, so perhaps that is the only real option. Over at fly half, George Ford is back in the mix, though he plays for Sale Sharks now and no longer the Leicester Tigers. There's a real possibility of the Ford-Farrell axis coming back to life, but I do think that either way, Marcus Smith, if he is chosen, fingers crossed, because he was the best 10 in World Rugby last year, he's possibly going to be the guy sitting on the bench, because Borthwick doesn't seem to be a fan of the 10-12 axis. I've previously released an analysis video on why the Smith and Farrell axis will be crucial for England's World Cup chances, but Borthwick unfortunately just does not seem to agree with me. Maybe Borthwick just isn't a fan of Smith's flair or something, but Owen Farrell, the captain, he is guaranteed for selection. I don't know why everybody seems to think I think Marcus Smith is the best player in the world, because Farrell is the best 12 in England for sure, and he is a better player than Smith right now. Farrell, absolute legend. He does not deserve all the hate that he gets. Genuinely, like, people seem to just hate him for the same reason they hate Richie McCaw. He wants to win no matter what, he's a true competitor, and aside from winning the World Cup, he's done basically everything. By the time the World Cup starts, ideally, he will be the second to highest point scorer in the history of Test rugby, behind only Dan Carter, and with the ability to play two positions, he's just absolutely invaluable to this team. They've already named him as captain, and he will be certain to add to his 112 tests, including 6 for the British and Irish Lions. Over to the actual midfielders, people don't seem to want Farrell in the midfield. Ollie Lawrence is starting to fire once again. He would be the guy that I would put in 13 alongside Farrell and Smith, because Ollie Lawrence, he's in really good form right now. Simple as that. Manu Tuolangi though, I'm not trying to be rude to him here, I'm not trying to insult him, but he's always injured like Dane Coles, but he's just like a cockroach who won't go away from Test rugby. No matter how many injuries Tuolangi gets, I'm not trying to insult him, he just will not go away. 111 kgs is a pretty big guy, but he's the runt of his family and still provides so much power in that game. One of his nephews, Posolo, is so huge. It's just a Tuolangi thing, and Manu Tuolangi is possibly going to be Borthwick's backup in the 12 jersey if having a big 12 is the way he wants to go. Tuolangi has played in the 2011 and 2019 Rugby World Cups, so this will be his third World Cup, and he's also played one test for the Lions. As for the 13s, it's pretty obviously going to be Henry Slade in that jersey, a veteran of 56 tests, and the only Exeter Chief in this team. The Exeter Chiefs players just do not seem to be featuring internationally anymore. Anyway, Henry Slade can play many positions, so he's a real jack of all trades and is certain to get into the team. But as for backups at 13 for Slade, England's don't have an out-and-out talent over there. Maybe Elliot Daly's experience could get him in, but I think they'll possibly want to go for a bit more of a specialist in the form of Joe Marchant, though Marchant could also cover wing during the pull stages. Marchant has signed for Stade Francais over in France, but ultimately he knows Test rugby more than Guy Porter, so we'll probably get in over Porter. And though English coaches tend to just flood the team with outside backs no matter who they are in the past, I do think with Borthwick's love for George Ford, it might be a little bit different this time, while Manu Tuolangi, who's going to be in a 10-12 axis with Ford in a few games, was also Ford's Leicester teammate in the past, so Joe Cokanasiga probably just going to be the only out-and-out left winger. Cokanasiga's skinfold tests as of late have been really good, he's in the shape of his life, and so hopefully this is the tournament where he just absolutely lights the world up. There's quite honestly nobody in English rugby like him, like a big guy that's actually genuinely quick. They're going to need this guy. Max Malins, on the other hand, seems to be Borthwick's favourite at number 14. Malins isn't my favourite, but he's Borthwick's favourite, so I'm pretty sure Max Malins is a safe bet for this tournament. But Anthony Watson, I don't have words for the guy. He is a genuine star, and at 29 years old, he's not quite done yet over on the wing. While Father Time has definitely caught up with Johnny May and Jack Nowell's unavailable for selection, I think Anthony Watson's ability to play fullback and his experience is going to see him get in over Caden Murley, and Anthony Watson just genuinely one of the greats of English rugby. I can't say more. Freddie Stewart though, I may be wearing an Air Jordan shirt right now, but I'm hoping I'm wearing an Air Stewart jersey by the end of his career. He's 22 years old with as many caps as his age, and he's an incredible player, just provides the true safety under the high ball, and with Jordie Barrett trying to move to centre right now, I think I'm possibly going to look at the end of Stewart's career and think to myself, you know, this is what Jordie Barrett could have been if he stayed at fullback. While Barrett has more talent than Stewart right now, Stewart, I do believe, remains one of the best fullbacks in world rugby, behind Tom R. Ramos with Hugo Keenan in third, and Freddie Stewart. There is just simply nobody in English rugby that can take that 15 jersey from him. The fact that Watson and Malins can also drop back to 15 is probably just going to be the best way to do it, because by picking another specialist 15, they're just not going to play at all, and so Watson and Malins are definitely going to round out this team properly. Now that we've just gone through my predictions for the squad, let me know of your predictions down in the comments below. You'll probably have some different picks, and let me know my Kiwi perspective if I've got enough information, of course. Subscribe to me if you enjoyed the video, like this video, support me over on Instagram, and support me over on Threads. I'm going to end the video now, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks very much for watching the video. Cheers guys, from Max.